Hi everybody, I'm Tony E at Show IP Interface Brief, and it is a good feeling to be back. It is a very exciting time. I'm feeling better, and I've been sort of like furiously labbing tonight because I wanted to try and get a lab prepared that I could do a demo because I wanted to sort of explain something that happened yesterday, a cool networking problem that I think I have a clever way to solve, and wanted to share that with everybody because if you find yourself in the same situation, maybe this will help you, or if you have a better solution, please, please, please share it with me. Um, so I was just finishing up doing some IP addressing on a lab. If I can just finish here, what interface do I have? ETH01. ETH01. This is kind of like the boring stuff, but it's got to be done. 99 to 2. And if I just want to go all the way upstream, this would be interface ETH. Interface ETH0. I gave it the wrong IP address. ETH01 and then interface ETH00. And if I want to do this one too, the last one I have to do, which I should have maybe done this all ahead of time, but I didn't. So this is the last one I have. No shut, interface loop back, 888. Just to throw, Google's Quad 8 out there in the lab topology, just make sure I can hit something outside of the network I'm sort of establishing here. No shut, show IP interface brief. Got two interfaces, that ought to do it. And the last thing I want to see is I want to make sure these guys, DC primary 1 has 22.1.2. We'll call this and we'll call the other one 22.11. We'll call it 22. All right, so I don't know if I'll have time to get to this, but just wanted to get something started because I'm excited about it. Because I'm excited about getting some labs going. I haven't labbed in a long time, and some coworkers and friends called on me to help them out with a problem. And I think I had the solution, but like I always do, always, as a network engineer, always, lab your solution up before you implement it. Hopefully you have a staging environment. If you don't have a staging environment, use your own lab. I've been using my own labs to lab up, things that I need in the field since the beginning. And it's been the only way I can do business. Hey, Mark, I guess that's Mark Milo maybe in here. Good evening, everyone. And in TCP Dump 101, Grave Rose, I think, is in here. Let me see. Hey, Mark. Hey, Tony, everyone. Hey, guys, thanks for joining. So a couple of things that I want to go over in this stream is I kind of want to talk a little bit about my breakdown yesterday and a little bit of the answers that I have. And maybe that's a little misleading because I don't necessarily have answers, but I know where to start to find them. And that's the good news. So that's why I'm excited. I even spent today working with my family a little bit on taking those baby steps to actually implement some of these things to promote happiness and better communication for myself. It's something that I must need. I didn't know I needed. I didn't know I needed to help myself. And obviously this was a sort of a subconscious way of me sort of putting it all out there. And I'm actually so happy I did. I was very embarrassed actually realizing that I had shared something that was kind of personal. And I was thinking, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Maybe this was a bad idea. And I got an outpouring of great support, so I'm very glad that I did, because I needed to hear some of those things. Not all the niceties that people were saying, but a lot of the sort of deep thinking questions that some people shot my way. And it made me sort of take a step back and sort of refocus. And that's exactly what I needed to do. So I definitely want to get into that much deeper. Mark says, all you need to do is add the following word in front of any solution. It should work. Yes, that's right. It should work. But I never make a recommendation. I never tell someone, you need to do this, unless I have thoroughly tested it myself. That's just my sort of mantra. That's how I approach problems. I want to make sure they're well vetted on my end, and that I can, show proof, show logs, show config, show examples, and sort of make that relatable at a very deep engineering level. And this was one of those things where I didn't have a lab ready. It's actually the lab is a little bit involved. And I'm going to show the lab if you haven't seen it already in the stream, just a brief glimpse. Actually, I guess I didn't switch cameras yet, so you wouldn't have seen my desktop. But yeah, I was just IPing a couple of labs. So I want to talk about my breakdown yesterday. I want to talk about giving back to the community, because there was an amazing thing that happened over the last few days and over the last week. A really good charitable thing has happened across Twitter in our community, our networking community. A wonderful way to give back, and I want to bring it up because I want to raise some awareness about it, and I really think it's a great way to help people, anyone who needs it. I want to talk about the cool online BGP tools. I said tools, but really it's tool. And this is related to the lab that I did. I used a free online wonderful BGP tool built by someone right here in our community, someone whom I've never met, but only talked to online and within the community. So I was excited to use this person's tool and just how useful it was. It gave me exactly the data I was looking for in exactly the way I needed it. Very, very easy, very intuitive. And so I want to share that with everybody, because if it helped me and I found not a solution, it helped me uncover what some of the problems were immediately just by seeing the output. So I definitely want to share that with everybody. How writing a blog can save your ass is my fourth topic for the night. And this, again, goes into the solution that I recommended to some friends, because part of that solution came out of a blog that I had written previously. And so I'm like, I think I've solved this problem before. And so I'm going to my own website, looking at my own blogs, to try and find it. And in fact, pivoting over to my own YouTube channel, where I did a video of exactly this solution that I hope is going to work tonight as a possible solution. And it's all laid out right there in the video. In fact, I didn't really watch it all again. So if I get to labbing tonight, I don't know if we have enough time, but if I get to labbing tonight, because I don't want to stay up all night, I got to get to bed. You might see me fumble a bit because I'm not well rehearsed on this. I haven't done this particular scenario ever, actually, but used this particular set of commands since I made that video. And hopefully I can share all of that with everyone. I'll put some links in the chat in just a little bit. And then the last thing on my list is actually the lab. So before I get into reflecting on yesterday, because I want to want to take the time to actually walk through it and make sure I give thanks to all of the people who've helped me, because it really has helped. I'm not a perfect human being. I am flawed like the rest of us, and sometimes I need help, and people came to my rescue, and it really did help me. And so I want to give thanks. I want to talk about that and sort of my process moving forward, in hopes that, again, maybe it will help one person help them. So before I do, I want to share the lab topology in case anyone wants to get their gears moving, in case anyone wants to sort of think about it in the background. Of course, all you good engineers will probably just not listen to the rest of my stream, and instead we'll just start labbing this up on your own, trying to find the answer before I lab it at the end. And that's okay. That's okay. Okay, so here's what we have here. I'm going to pull up this EvenG lab. All right, you guys can see that? Awesome. Yes, it's live. Okay, so here's an EvenG lab. Okay, and this is sort of tying together, these aren't very complicated components, actually. These are all pretty simple components here. I'm going to take a snapshot so I can draw on the screen in just a minute. Actually, I think I'll do that now. Take a snapshot, full screen snip. Let's see, you guys can still see that. All right, perfect. Okay, so if I just, let me see if I can get my pen, all these things got to be adjusted a little bit. Okay, so if we just sort of talk about this portion of the topology, ignoring the components all the way to the left, what we're looking at here is a very basic MPLS service provider core. Nothing fancy here, absolutely the simplest configuration we can get. And then the same autonomous system on both ends of that service provider. And if anyone has worked through some of the CCNP materials, some of the CCIE materials, this is a very common scenario you'll walk through, you'll see many times, time and time again. And the problem with this design, one of the fundamental flaws in this design, is that a router won't receive prefixes that have its own AS in the AS path for BGP, right? Assuming everything in the red rectangle that I drew is all BGP. So what happens is when this branch advertises prefixes into the core, the carrier advertises them out across itself, imports them into the correct VRF, and will try to advertise them down to what would be the other CE on the other side of the network. And this guy would reject it because it sees AS100 in its path, and it is AS100. So that's sort of a very convenient loop prevention mechanism that's built into the routers. So typically here, what you would commonly see, and what I've seen in many CCIE prep labs, and I don't know if I've ever implemented this solution or this particular thing in the lab itself. But one of the common things here, right? There are two common things here that I can think of. One of them is AS override. Okay, and the other is allow, I think I'm doing this right, AS in. I don't remember exactly where the hyphens are, if it's double hyphenated or not. Allow AS in. Okay, so each of these are valid solutions to this problem, what's contained in the red triangle. I'm going to start with the bottom one here, allow AS in. What that's going to do is you would configure that on these receiving routers. And actually, you would do it over here on the CE side as well for prefixes that are coming sort of from the other direction. Okay, so you would configure that on the CE side. Is this the correct color? On the CE side, and what that will do is it will allow you to receive prefixes that have your own AS in the AS path as many times as you specify. So I forget actually what it is by default, but typically you will want to put a number after this command, the number 1, right? You only want to allow prefixes, you only receive prefixes, put them in your BGP table, if they have your AS in the AS path once. And the reason you would specify that number is that would sort of prevent some additional looping from happening. Maybe there's a loop somewhere where your AS ends up in the path 2 or 3 times. This would prevent you from receiving prefixes that would inevitably cause a loop. I don't know if I've ever actually seen that, but that's why we specify the number. It could be maybe for other filtering purposes as well. So those are both valid. All right, then the top one here, AS override, you would apply to the PE side, and you would apply that outbound to the neighbors. All right, and what that's going to do is that's going to override the originating AS with the AS of the service provider itself, right? Because the service provider will inject its AS in the path. And what this means is, if I'm just going to clear the board, what's the quickest way to clear the board? Actually, I don't know. Erase. I'll just erase everything. Sometimes I get a little too happy with the pen. I absolutely love the pens. Okay. And I'm sure there's a way to clear the whole text. If anyone's got it, you can throw it in the chat. Actually, I can't see the chat right now, so if anyone's chimed in, awesome. Okay, so we're talking about AS override. And that's applied outbound. Where was I? Oh, and that's because the prefixes that would be received from branch 1 here at DC secondary without any modification would have an AS path of originating in 100. Then it would have the AS path of the service provider 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And because it sees itself, its own AS in the AS path, it will reject those prefixes. It'll give you an AS path loop, I think. Okay, so what AS override does is it will go ahead and remove this originating AS, or the AS that was ingested by the provider itself, and will replace it with 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now when this prefix is received by the DC secondary, which is our secondary data center site, it does not see its own AS in the path, and therefore will receive the prefixes. All right, so I'm going to take a pause right there, and I'm going to click over to the chat, see what's going on over there. Give me a second. I don't know where I have all my damn windows. Okay. This is the chat. I put the chat over here. To erase all, just click on the option under the eraser, erase all links. Let me see what you got. All right, let me test that out. All right, I think I changed my view. There we go. Sorry, the YouTube feed is a little delay, so I don't get to see if my cameras are switching until afterwards. All right, let's see. Oh, erase all links. Okay, got it. That is awesome. That's exactly what I want. Okay, so so we talked about AS override and allow AS in. If everyone follows me so far, that's awesome. These are pretty simple concepts that as you work through your CCIE material, or at least when I worked through my CCIE material, pretty much every lab you're doing is going to have a feature like this somewhere in it, and you do it regularly. Either allow AS in, AS override, or some sort of form of manipulation. But in this particular scenario, it would be those two. Okay, so that in itself is not a problem. That's actually perfectly fine and looks great. The problem here is, I'm trying to think how I can sort of generically say this. Okay, so if I have prefixes at branch 1 and branch 2 that are 22.1.0.0/16, I just realized you can't see that. 22, boom, now you can see it. And down here we have 22.2.0.0/16 for branch 1 and branch 2. And here at our DC primary or data center primary and data center secondary, we have 22.22.0.0/16, and let's see, at our DC secondary, 22.11.0.0/16. And what we typically do is advertise these /16s up to our upstream provider as they are received. And so far, this is all the entire topology is all BGP, except for the IGP in the service provider core. Okay, and then the upstream provider advertises those prefixes up to its internet edge before it reaches actually advertised out to the internet. The problem is here, the internet edge is actually seeing these prefixes, 22.1 and 22.2, as originating from 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is this AS. And the reason is, right, if we go back to that AS override, the AS override is overwriting the originating AS in this case with the service provider AS. And what's happening here is the internet edge guys are saying, whoa, 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 whoa. The prefixes that are being advertised appear as if they originate from the service provider, and we're not allowed to accept them. They have to originate from your AS, which is AS 100. So that is the problem statement. Okay. If anyone's followed along, I hope you've enjoyed the problem statement. If anyone has any awesome suggestions, I'm all ears. That's why we have this great community to share and collaborate with. So there's a lot about networking I don't know. I am only familiar with the components that I've touched and the things that I've done. So I'm all ears for someone turning me on to something new. There's a couple of caveats here. This is a real life problem. This is a real problem that some friends are experiencing right now. There's a couple of caveats here. The caveats are, if I draw it in a different color, blue, why not? The service provider core, you cannot touch. You're not the service provider. You're coming at it from the point of view of AS 100. You can't touch AS 300. You can work with the team under AS 200, so there's that as well. All right, and obviously you're not one of the internet backbone routers, so you have nothing to do there. So that leaves you with really the only places you can make modifications and changes are here and here. And so that starts to really limit some of the possibilities. And you're going to have to get creative. So I have what I think is a potential solution to this problem. I don't think I'll have enough time to lab it up tonight, but I can talk about the solution and talk about the references. And then I actually have this lab built so that I can go through the exercise, maybe tomorrow, and then help out my friends at work. Okay. Let's talk about one more exciting thing. I want to talk about something very exciting before diving into my self-reflection. I want to talk about something very exciting. I wish I had all these links queued up. It was very irresponsible of me to start a stream without having the proper links queued up that I can share in chat. So I'm going to have to drop a bunch in the description. After this airs, I'll have to go retroactively add these links in the description. But what I wanted to share was one of the second, I don't know if it's the second thing, one of my bullet points was I wanted to talk about giving back to the community and charitable giving. Over the past week, a really awesome member of the networking community, Cisco Panther, Ernest, did a really awesome thing. He did it all completely on his own. And when I saw it, I just thought to myself, like, this is amazing. This is what absolute pure selflessness is like. And I thought it was really awesome, and I wanted to know, is there any way that I can help? What he did was he went ahead and put a message out on Twitter that said, and I'm not reading it, so I don't have the quote, but it said, "I'll take care of the next 10 people who DM me who want to take a course on Udemy." And I'm paraphrasing and summarizing because I'm not reading the tweet myself. And a lot of people, I assume, replied to him. And I was just sort of following it on Twitter throughout the day. And it looks like he made a real impact. He changed some people's lives, you know, and maybe he didn't change their lives, but he's giving them the opportunity to change themselves, you know, with a little bit of helpful encouragement, maybe it's a mentorship, and by helping with some coursework. And I thought it was so awesome. And I just thought it was great. And I didn't want to jump on the bandwagon and be a copycat and doing the same thing. But I saw that the next day, Steve from the community bounced up and said, "Ernest did such an amazing job. He'll take care of the next 10 people." And I assume that went quick as well. I don't know, but I assume that went quick as well. Because shortly after that, within another day or two, I saw, you know, these are all people that I follow, you know, regularly. So I'm seeing these tweets in my timeline all the time. So I get to sort of follow this story a little bit. And Steve said that gifting the classes went so well that he went ahead and built a little workflow, a little form, so that an online form, so that if people want to, I call it like angel gifting. If someone wants to gift classes, courses, they can sign up to be a gifter. And if someone wants to receive a course, someone that you know would like to have a course and doesn't have the means to do so, they can sign up to receive a course. And so I just messaged them and said, "Hey, you know, how can I help? You guys have done a great thing. It's awesome. Looks like you guys are doing great. And I just want to continue the charitable efforts. I think it's important." And so I did. So I pledged to take care of some courses, and I got 10 recipients, and I took care of them. And I hope that they take their classes, and I hope they receive them well, and I hope it benefits them, and that I hope that the gift of giving hits them, and that they can give again. That's what I wanted to bring up, is that if we have 100 people that want to give things, that's so amazing, because I know we can find 100 people that want to receive them. And it just makes it a really awesome balance. I really adore the networking community for exactly that community. That's what we really have here. There's a lot of communities out there, you know, in different social media platforms, different software platforms, whether you're on Slack or Discord or if you're a GitHub junkie or Twitter or what have you, Reddit, if Reddit's your thing, 4chan, if you want to go down that route. And there's so many communities out there, but the networking community that we have on Twitter is really awesome. And if you're just seeing this video for the first time and you're not part of the community, go and follow myself, and then follow all the people that I follow if you want to do that. And then follow all the people that they follow. I mean, it is really an awesome community. And over the years now, I have reached out to so many people, and they have helped me firsthand. And I have helped I hope many people, I don't know how many people I've helped. It seems like it's never enough. Um, but I enjoy helping people. When people come to me with a problem, with a question, I try to give my best response, whether it's technical or personal. I try to do my best, and that's all I can do. So I just wanted to bring that up. There's been great charity in the community. Ernest kicked it off as a true selflessness, charitable nature that he has. I think in the past few years, if anyone's been watching the community closely, we've seen Ernest come up through the ranks, right? He has studied for his courses. He's been successful. He's achieving. He has, I think, a good position and a great salary, and he always gives back. And all we can do is hope to follow in his footsteps. He is really leading the way, and so thank you for that, for being an awesome leader in the community. All right, so I wanted to get that out of the way because that is really awesome, and I don't want to shadow it with my terrible self-reflection about yesterday, but I'll dive into that now. Let's see. Summarization, perhaps. Mark, is this Mark Milo? I need to head out, Tony. Some more family things to take care of. If I can donate a couple of courses, please drop me a message on Twitter if you can, please. I'd love to help out. Hey, Mark, I really appreciate it. Yeah, I can get you hooked up with Steve. And it's, yeah, Mark Milo, awesome. Yeah, I'll make sure you guys get linked up. He's got a little form you fill out if you want to gift things. It just makes it really easy, and the way that people can help the most people. Twitter DMs go far, and this way just reaches a little bit farther. So either way is helpful. But I'll get you guys hooked up. He has been taking care of the back end. Thanks, Mark, for tuning in. Yeah, no problem. Good night, man. Take care of your family. Awesome. And okay, so I'm going to dive into a little bit of self-reflection here. Yesterday, I found myself sort of in a little bit of a dark time, and through exposing my emotional weakness, to the internet, which is the world, although I don't have that many people who pay attention, but I did get an overwhelming amount of responses back. But through exposing my emotional weakness to the world, has made me have the conversation with others and with myself to help get to the root of some of what was causing my emotional discomfort yesterday, and sort of why I felt like I needed to reach out. What I thought at the time was that this was just one large problem that was like one large mountain to climb. And I just felt like I didn't have anywhere to turn and didn't know what to do, what my next move was going to be. That's the funny thing about depression. And anyone who's been through it knows what I'm talking about. And people who haven't been through depression sometimes don't get this statement. But when you're feeling depressed, you know in your head that the only thing that can get you out of it is yourself, and you just need to get up and do it. But that's the thing about depression. Even when you know that, sitting there looking at yourself and saying, I know I can be better, I just need to get up out of the chair and do it. Depression is that thing that still keeps you sitting there doing nothing about yourself, about your problems. And I was feeling quite a bit of that yesterday. And it wasn't that it hit me yesterday. It actually, it hit me the day before. And yesterday became the day that I just said, you know what? I was just sort of voicing myself online in a rather embarrassing way. And, but the overwhelming response that I got was amazing. That's why I absolutely love this community and why I try to do these occasional live streams. And I hope to do more because I really do enjoy this. The overwhelming response that I got was I wasn't alone. A lot of people replied, I'm feeling the same way, or I have felt the same way about how I was feeling yesterday. I was feeling really inadequate. I was feeling like I wasn't a good enough husband, father, neighbor, friend, coworker, I guess. I didn't include that, I don't think, but I just felt like I wasn't good enough. And and that and that I was struggling to find what my purpose was. I kind of feel like this must all be for something. I don't mean so much spiritually, but I get up every day and I make the decisions I make, and I work the work that I do, and I do all of this, and for what? And I started really questioning that. And the response that I got was that I'm not alone. So many others have asked themselves the same thing, or are asking themselves the same thing now. And that was, and I said this yesterday, it was a huge sigh of relief because I know I'm not alone. And that's one of the worst feelings about being depressed, is you feel like you're alone and that you're in it by yourself and that nothing can help you. But by default, by me putting it out there in public, I got so many responses back that I've discovered that I'm not alone. There are so many people out there who have felt the same way. It also validated my feelings and said that it's okay to feel this way. Life has ups and downs, and all these other people have said that they've either feeling it or have felt it and have been through it and have come out the other side even better. And that makes it okay to feel this way. It makes it a stepping stone, not a brick wall. And I think that is yesterday I saw this as a brick wall. I can't go any further. Can't go through it, can't go over it, can't go under it, can't go any further. And through reflecting on it, I realized it's not a brick wall, it's a stepping stone. And that it's just another part of my path, and I will get through it, and soon it will be a stepping stone that's in the path behind me because I will have passed it. TCP Dump says, it's hard sometimes, but everyone, especially in IT, goes through it. But good on you for noticing it yourself. It's a great first step whenever this happens. Yeah, and that's exactly sort of the crux, the distilled version of what I'm trying to get out tonight is I didn't get out of it answers, but what I got out of it is that I'm taking the first steps. And I don't know where the path goes. I don't know where it leads, and I don't know what's on the other end. But I'm taking the first steps to refocus myself. Not like my studies, not my work, but refocus myself to really start being able to answer that question. What am I here for? What's my purpose? And I don't mean I'm going to have some spiritual uplifting answer to give, but I want to be able to outline particular goals in my near future, personal goals, not that I want to lose 20 pounds and I want to start working out every day. But things like, what can I do to be a better father or to feel like I'm a better father? And I'm involving my family in this too. I asked them to write down some things so that we can have an open conversation about it. And that's one of the things that I have failed my family at. In this time that we're in, even though we're locked up together in this house, it's been nearly 9 weeks. Maybe it has been more than 9 weeks for us. In this house, we really haven't been spending a lot of time together. We really haven't been communicating with each other. In fact, our interactions are very scheduled. Here's how we do dinner. Here's how we do bedtime. If there's a little bit of time for a video game or reading a book or any sort of short activity, we do it. And then we try to kind of go our separate ways because we've been cooped up together for too long. And what that has done is that has broken down our family's communication. Now, this is my opinion. My wife may have a very different opinion on the matter. But it's my opinion that has broken down the communication, and that's why I've started feeling this way. And how I'm going to remedy that is I'm opening the doors of communication back up with my family and forcing everyone to communicate, even if we're discovering things about each other that we don't like. We need to know these things so we know that we can steer away from them. And I don't know if that makes a lot of sense right now, but it's something that I'm working on. So many people know exactly what I'm going through. Many have sent me private messages, and I thank all of you for the feedback. It has been great. The bottom line here is I sort of wrote myself a couple of notes as I was thinking about it. Everyone in my household is stressed more than usual. It's hitting me the hardest, no question about that. My kids, they're pretty much fine. My wife, you know what? She's pretty much fine too. Sure, she has her own stresses, and some stresses far greater than my own. And we have someone else living with us as well, and everyone is managing, and it's really hitting me the hardest. I must be the one who's emotionally the weakest, and that's okay, because that means that I have a great family to lean on to help carry me through this tough time. Asking what my purpose is a very deep question, and I may never know the actual answer to that. And in fact, most people said, there was a lot of responses, and I tried to distill them down into sort of like 3 basic categories, but even I couldn't do that. Most responses were pretty unique. But many people said that they wish they had their answers too. They wish they knew their purpose. Some people denied that a purpose even exists. Some people said there is no purpose. You just live each day trying to do the best you can. Well, in my mind, that is the purpose, I guess. You know, it's maybe 2 different ways of looking at the same coin. And many people turned me towards spiritual guidance. And while I've considered it, I haven't leveraged it in my journey yet. I'm open to anything. And so, you know, I was raised Catholic in Christianity, and we weren't the most devout Catholics, right? But we went to church a few times a year on the important days, Easter, Christmas Eve. And so I'm not completely unfamiliar there, but it's something that I definitely don't leverage as often as I should. But while I didn't discover an answer to my purpose, and I didn't discover an end answer to my problem, there isn't a one-word answer. There isn't a single solution to my problem. One of the things that has resonated with some of the conversations I was having in direct messages or private messages and on Twitter is that this is where you reset. This is where you begin again. I've sort of hit rock bottom, but not rock bottom in the sense that people who have it far worse than I will hopefully ever have it hit rock bottom. But rock bottom in the sense that I've hit a wall where I didn't know how to move past it by myself. And what I got out of it is this is where you reset and this is where you begin again. And what that means is I may be starting to go through some feelings that I'm not who I once was. I'm at a certain point in my life, although even though I'm bald and I look older than I am, I'm relatively young. So I'm really hoping this isn't like a midlife crisis, because that would mean the end of my life is not far off. And we don't want that. But it sort of seems that way. It seems like I'm sort of struggling to accept that this is the new me and trying to figure out how to carve out my path in my own future now. How do I do it now? You know, when you're, and a lot of people have reached out to me and sort of equated a lot of these sort of feelings to similar feelings that many have had after completing the CCIE journey. And I just want to bring that up because that was a very important thing in my life. Most of the people who, if you have found me on YouTube streaming, that was the foundation of my streaming, was CCIE. Since that is behind me now, people have told me that once your CCIE is behind you, commonly people have found themselves sort of floating without purpose. Like, what do you do with your time now? What do you do with your efforts? And I did my CCIE, I completed it in January. We're now May, so we're almost 4 months later. February, March, April, May. 4 months, okay, I can count. And 4 months later, and it just seems so strange to me for it to hit me now. But a lot of the things that people were saying who have been through this are exactly some of the things that I'm feeling right now. So it makes sense. It fits. You know, if the puzzle pieces fit, maybe they go together. Maybe that this is the result, sort of a delayed response of that, as well as so many other things, right? And that's something that I want to bring up. One of the last things I want to bring up about reflecting from yesterday was yesterday I thought I had one single problem, and through conversations and through digging deeper and diving deeper into myself, what I realized was I didn't have one problem. What yesterday was the effect of many things in the pot all boiling over at the same time. This social distancing and stay home lockdown that we're in is supposed to be eased and lifted soon in my area. I think like tomorrow, but it has added a lot of stress. Added a lot of stress. And then with that comes all of the inner conflict that I have within myself. I'm not a perfect person. I am a flawed human like most of you out there. And I struggle with some basics sometimes. And that's kind of what this is. It's a reset. It's a bring back the basics. That's what I'm trying to do with myself. So that's what I'm going to do. I've sat my family down a little bit. I've touched on this subject a little bit. I'm starting to carve out some communication with my kids on really defining a path for myself and them to move forward so we can open communication, ease our tensions here at home. And I believe that will ease a lot of things for me personally. I hope so. I have nothing else to do. I have only this. This is the only thing I can do, as far as I know. And at least I'm trying something. I'm trying to get myself out of it from the help of everybody. So thank you to everybody who reached out. It really did get me out of a dark place and give me a little bit of a new direction to go on. So thank you to everybody. And for those people who private messaged me, I really appreciate the deep conversations because they were very helpful in giving me this realization. Okay, so that's about what I have for my reflecting. Let's see. TCP Dump says, if you haven't already, start keeping a journal of your thoughts. Use what you've written to reflect on your past and how far you've come. That's a good point. I started writing a little bit to help foster the communication with me and my kids. I have a couple of papers here on my desk. It's not more of a journal entry, but maybe today is worth sort of writing down and doing some self-reflecting and just throwing it in a file somewhere so that maybe a month from now I can take a look at it and see the distance between now and then. Kind of reminds me of that Spaceballs episode, right? When will then be now? Soon. So that's a very, very good point. And something I'm going to try. A lot of people sent me links to different blogs for help. I've clicked every one and I've read every one. Some of them required a little more effort and more action. If I need it, I have these resources now. I have tools in the toolbox, and that's kind of what it's about. You guys have given me tools in the toolbox to help me deal with these self problems. And I didn't have the tools before. I didn't know what they were. So now I got some tools. So now I can rebuild myself. But life isn't all about sadness. I still haven't lost my humor. I was still making some jokes yesterday, and Twitter's a great place for humor and having fun with friends and community. So let's see. Okay, let's talk about a really awesome BGP tool. And I don't know if I'll have time to do a little lab, but maybe if I can, at least I'll prep my lab, and then maybe I'll do another live stream tomorrow of how we actually try and solve this problem. Hopefully someone sees this and recommends a new solution to me, something different that I haven't thought of. Let me get rid of this whiteboard. I'm going to pull up this awesome site. I'm going to move my screen over here. And here we go. Right. Yeah, baby. Okay, so This is an awesome site if you guys haven't used it. It is absolutely so simple. But it has made itself a great resource, not just for me today, but over the past few weeks, I've sort of just been like showing up on this site and typing in queries of different networks that I know. And it's really, really awesome that it can distill down a lot of great information. Now, this is not unlike a looking glass router. Most people who are advertising prefixes out to the internet are familiar with a looking glass router. A looking glass router is a router that generally has public access. Most people can telnet into it, or maybe not so much now. Most of the time, you are presented with a web interface that allows you to make some simplified queries to them. And what that is for is you can see how your network is seen from other routers on the internet, across the internet. Most service providers, Verizon, Hurricane Electric, Level 3, CenturyLink, I'm just naming ones that I know and have interacted with, provide looking glass routers, and they're really great tools. This is not unlike a looking glass router. Actually, I'm not sure what's on the back end of this, but let me give a shout out to Darren O'Connor. He's an awesome member of the community. You can follow him on Twitter if I click his link. Let's see here, at Mellow Drifter. So this is the site that he made, bgpstuff.net, and I'm loving it. So it helped me and some friends help diagnose this problem yesterday. And it's very cool. So what you get to see is it is pulling up my IP address here. And it's showing me that my IP address belongs to this route. And I get to see some AS path. So here's the AS path for this prefix. That is between the BGP stuff, wherever it's getting its information from, and where my prefix is announced on the internet. It goes through 3 AS hops. So this was pretty cool. So, and then I can go in and do like AS name, and it shows me the name for this AS. 701 is UUNet, which used to be called UUNet. I guess they still call it UUNet. It's probably DBA, Verizon, and so many others. So this is very cool. One of the things I like is if I can find an AS path, AS name, sourced. Okay, this is a great one. When you click on sourced, it's going to use, this website is completely based on your source IP address. So if you want to put another autonomous system in here, you can put any autonomous system number in that you want, or any source IP address that you want. But when I click on the button for sourced, it's really cool. It shows me all of the prefixes that are sourced by the autonomous system number that actually contains my prefix. So there's a whole bunch, right? They're all part of the same AS. Oh, even some IPv6 down there at the bottom. Very cool. Very cool. Just seeing that for the first time now. And anyhow, what we were seeing is when you throw in a couple of prefixes for this particular customer, what you would see is in their AS path, they didn't actually originate their own prefix. You would see the service provider network twice, and that's based on the problem I posted here in the beginning of my stream, the networking problem. And that was very interesting. And then when I went and did sourced for that AS, I saw all of the networks that AS actually sources out to the internet. But the thing is it doesn't actually source our customer's prefix out to the internet. It just looks that way. Our customer's prefix actually continues to go through multiple tiers of providers before it's released onto the internet. And that's one of the ways, actually, I don't know how it got flagged, but I'm happy that somebody did. Now we can go back and retroactively look at all of the customers and see if there's anyone else this is happening to. So it was a very cool, very quick tool to use. I got on it. And in fact, the funny thing here is while I was on the phone with a coworker and friend, I was asking, okay, what's give me a prefix. Okay. I was on this website looking it up, and at the same time, he was at the command line running some of these curl commands, and he was actually curling for some of the same output. So the same stuff that I was getting in the website, he was getting in curl output. And it was just so funny. He's like, yeah, I'm on this website called BGP stuff. And I'm like, so am I. So it's just a really awesome tool. If you guys haven't used it, hop on it. Really intuitive. Gets you the information you want very quickly. Very similar to a Looking Glass router. I highly recommend it. Very cool tool. And that's one of the things I wanted to cover today. Okay, so back to what we have here. As I mentioned, the problem is, where's my pen? The problem is when this site's prefixes are actually advertised outbound, it appears that they originate from this autonomous system because this guy is doing AS override. So it's actually replacing this AS in the path. And that's what we don't want. So let me see if I can share with you guys what my solution was. My solution is actually on my own YouTube channel. And if I go to videos and see if I can find this link. I have done a lot of videos and I apologize for that. Tell you what, let me search in my own channel for challenge. BGP challenge correct solution. Okay, this is, sorry, I didn't mean to blow out everyone's speakers. I should have turned my my audio off. Here is that video. What this is actually, someone had shared with me a BGP topology problem, and I didn't know where they got it from, and asked me, hey, Tony, try this BGP problem. So, so I did, and I did it my own way, and I made a blog post about it, and that is at show IP interface brief. How do I get to my own blog? And if I look in here for challenge, oh, I do have a post here. BGP update. Wait a second. Go back. This one. I'm just copying a link here. I'm going to dump it in the chat. Someone shared with me a topology, said, Tony, here's a BGP challenge. Can you solve it? I went ahead and worked the solution. I thought I had a pretty clever solution. Actually, it wasn't very clean. Looking back at it, it wasn't very clean. But I put the time and effort in to analyze the problem as best as I could and come up with a solution. And then I posted my solution, and I tagged the original person who posted the question. And that was Vinit Jain, who wrote Troubleshooting BGP. Who wrote this book. And I mentioned this in my YouTube video. He replied back, that's cool, Tony. Awesome that you worked the challenge, but that solution is incorrect. And that's okay. Maybe I misunderstood the requirements. So I went and watched his video, and then actually, spoiler alert, at the end of his video, towards the end of his video, he mentions what the solution was. at least the technology to implement it. And then I went ahead and made a new solution video, which is an update that says like, hey, this is the correct solution. And that's what I shared with you guys. So what that correct solution is, I'm just going to kind of walk through that in theory on this topology, and then so you can understand how I think this is going to solve the problem. And if anybody out there, Peter Pollock, Nick Russo, Daniel Dibb, if anybody has, Vinit Jain, you want to jump in here, Brad Edgeworth, you want to give me a better solution for this, for the problem that I have. What I hope to accomplish is using BGP inject-maps. Let me change my camera. BGP inject-maps. And what that's going to do is, remember, we're not allowed to touch anything in the service provider, okay? And I can't touch these guys either. So that leaves me with just the customer sites, and then sort of, I say us as the upstream provider looking down. Paul Cole, hey man, what's up? Welcome to the stream. So the service provider, again, as mentioned many times, is doing AS path override. Okay, so when we receive the prefixes of branch 1 and branch 2 advertised over to our data center primary and our data center secondary, we're seeing the AS path 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is the originating, this is the transit AS, and then, of course, ourselves, we are receiving it, again, as AS 100. What we want to do is an inject map is actually going to match prefixes from a specific neighbor and then originate new prefixes from your AS. Now, if anyone's got that light bulb moment, I had it when I thought this is a perfect thing. In fact, when my coworkers were asking me, Tony, we're trying to solve this BGP thing. I don't know if you can help at all. And I tried to describe the problem. Again, I got on bgpstuff.net and started looking at the AS paths and how everything was shaken out, and I realized kind of what was going on here. I was like, you know what? I think I've done this before. I think I've solved this problem. And this brings me to my last talking point of the night. How a blog will save your ass. Sorry, how a blog will save your ass. Because I wrote this blog post, I quickly went to the internet to go look at my own blog to comb through and see what was the solution that I came up with, and realizing like, oh yeah, my solution was wrong. But I did the correct solution. So let me look that up. And then I had to find that. And that was on YouTube. And I went over to YouTube. And then I linked back to my blog site. And so I had the how-to actually do this in video form. And it was awesome that I was able to share that with my coworkers, both in written format on my blog and as a video that they can reference. And I hope that it's helping them to build a strategy to implement to fix this problem for their customer in their network. And hopefully I'm going to help by validating it here on my own lab, just as because I love labbing. Let's be honest here, because I love labbing. And so what BGP inject will actually do, we need to apply it on both of our routers. And we're going to match the prefixes of branch 1 of branch 1 and branch 2 in a prefix list, and we're going to tuck that in a route map. And we're going to match our peered neighbor. In this case, it's going to be the service provider we're receiving them from. And then in another prefix list, we're going to identify the prefixes that we want to originate when these exist. And we're going to tuck those in a route map. And again, I just don't have enough time, I think, to lab it all up tonight. All the prep that I got done tonight was building this lab. I IP'd everything so that tomorrow I can throw an IGP and MPLS in the core and then build the BGP for everyone. And then, you know what, maybe I'll do that tomorrow, and then maybe I'll do another stream tomorrow night and we'll actually implement this and see if my prediction is correct, because you know what, I'm not actually 100% sure this will work, but I'm like 99% sure. The whole idea, the whole goal here is, in case anyone has a better way, we want AS200, AS300, and the rest of the internet to see all of the prefixes from AS100 as originating from AS100, and I don't want to see any of the service provider. That's my end goal. And so I really hope that that's what's going to happen. And I am so curious if there's a better, faster, quicker, simpler way to achieve this. That's what I really want to do. So guys, I just want to say a big thank you to everyone who reached out to me yesterday. It was a huge help. From time to time, I've needed to lean on some friends out there in Twitter land. And often I'm so happy that I do. I'm so happy that I can and that I did. And this is one of those times. I don't have all of my answers, but I have a path and I'm ready to move forward. That's the exciting part. I don't know how it's all going to shake out in the end. I don't know if anyone does. But I know that I'm going to, you know, say the very cliche things like I'm going to keep putting one foot in front of the other. I'm going to keep waking up every day, saying it's a good day. I mean, these are all the cliche things, but they're also true. You know, that's why they're cliche, because they make sense. People say them. So I just wanted to give another thanks. And also, if you didn't catch the top of the stream, Ernest and Steve did an awesome job setting up and organizing the charitable gifting of courses from Udemy. Udemy has had an amazing deal the past couple of days where many courses were hugely reduced, which enabled people like myself and so many others to be able to gift courses to other people. So if you're in need of a course, there's no guarantees, right? But if you're in need of a course, if you can't afford something, if you're on hard times, if you're out of work, if you're a student, if you're a single parent, if you're not, if you just want the guilt of taking something for free to motivate you to get something done, which would be kind of a sort of a weird thing, but I understand it in a weird way, then reach them on Twitter, make a request, and see if someone can gift you a course. I think it's an amazing thing to do in our community. So many vendors out there are giving away free and reduced trainings for different certifications and things, and that's awesome too. But I think the peer-to-peer aspect of this type of giving, this style of giving, is far more pure, right? We're going from someone to someone. You know, not from a corporation handed down the chain. Hey, I've swiped up some good deals myself, so I'm not adverse to taking a good deal when I see one. But to receive something from a peer, I think it's given with warm hands and a little bit of love. So if you need something like that, make sure you reach out to those guys. They're doing great work out there in the community to try and keep us all motivated and successful. So that's all I have. It's late on my end. Thank everyone. I want to thank everyone for joining in. It is very hard to share personal struggles online. In fact, sometimes I think after the fact that I shouldn't have. But I do anyways. And you know what? Maybe that's just part of who I am. You know, and that's just the way it is. So thank you everyone for all of your awesome support. I'm going to lab a little bit of this up tomorrow for work to help out my coworkers, and then maybe I'll hit the record button if I feel like pulling through the whole thing and see how this thing's going to turn out so that I can post a solution online. If anyone's got a better way to do this, let me know. I'm all ears. Love to hear it. And thank you all for tuning in. Oh, And oh my gosh, how stupid of me. I have completely forgotten something so important. Don't forget to listen to the Network Collective podcast. The Network Collective podcast has some great content, networking focused, with some of the folks in the industry who created some of the protocols that we are all using daily. It is an awesome, awesome gathering of people, and there's a great community around the Network Collective. It's built by the community, for the community, and it's something that I'm now contributing to, and I hope to contribute to for absolutely as long as I can. We have some great shows planned for you guys coming out soon. We have some on the burner, and we really look forward to sharing all the networking goodness with all of you all the time. So new episodes are released Wednesdays. Make sure you subscribe in your podcast catcher, whatever it may be, Spotify, Google Play, Apple iTunes. So go ahead, subscribe to the podcast. You'll hear me on it. You'll hear Jordan Martin on it, and some awesome, awesome, awesome guests. One of the last episodes we did, we talked to my buddy from Twitch. So if you've ever seen a stream on Twitch and you kind of wanted to hear a little bit about what it takes to run a CDN and a little bit of a peek behind the curtain on that, that's another great episode to listen to. So definitely give it a listen, give me some feedback, and thank you all so much. Good night.